This is an absolute game changer. This is making me love editing all over again. Meet Photolab 9, a robust and versatile RAW converter from industry legends DxO. DxO has been at the forefront of camera and lens calibration tools since the early 2000s, and with their latest update, they're taking out the big guns and going after industry giant Adobe. But what makes DxO special, and why am I choosing it over Lightroom and Photoshop? Now, as a disclaimer, DxO did contact me and asked me to test out Photolab 9, for which they supplied a license key and a discount code, so if you wanted to check it out yourself, check the link in the description below. However, they didn't get to see this final video beforehand or have an input in the end result. I wanted to keep this review as truthful and transparent as possible. Adobe's Photoshop and Lightroom have always been industry standard for photographers around the world. But over the last few years, people have started growing wary of the perpetual monthly subscription charges. It makes sense. Why pay for something you truly never own? And why punish me if I'm trying to cancel? It's time for a change and a reassessment of my workflow. DxO's Photolab is built around a single idea: maximum image quality without compromise. The aim is to provide photographers with high quality results rather than a bogged down ecosystem that relies heavily on presets. Additionally, with Photolab 9, you pay once and you own it forever. But how does it stand out against Lightroom? And will it push me over the edge to accept Adobe's punishment and make the switch? Being so used to working in Photoshop and Lightroom over the last 20 odd years, it's tough even thinking about switching systems. Luckily, the switch to DxO's Photolab 9 is relatively simple. It has a similar interface with the same tools you'd find in Lightroom, along with a few extras. The panels are clear and the tools are where you'd expect them to be. Keyboard shortcuts can be remapped to match Adobe Lightroom's shortcuts to make the transition easier. The interface is intuitive, the control panels are laid out logically and where you'd expect them to be. But what about catalogs and importing your work? In Lightroom, you'd import your photos into a master library or a catalog. The biggest difference is that, unlike Lightroom, DxO doesn't use a catalog system. Instead, it uses a browser interface, similar to Adobe Bridge, where it indexes your photos and stores local adjustments in an optional sidecar file. This allows you to access files directly from the hard drive and edit them non-destructively. So first off the bat, we have our main window here. You can see I've got a photo selected over there. To my left is my actual image library, or actually snapshot of what's on my computer. You can add some favorites there. You can search for images by date and time and whatever else. Just below your folders, you've got your projects. So this is where you can go and handpick individual images and add them to your projects. These files aren't copied into a new folder. They're not being duplicated anywhere. They remain intact in the original folder you copied them to, and DxO only references those files from that folder. Fantastic way of saving space. So I've got a couple of folders up here. I haven't added any projects into them yet. That's something that I'll still do, but for now we've got one folder here called DxO, and I've loaded a couple of files in there. We've got our histogram on the right hand side over here. It also shows the metadata of each image as I click on them, so you can see, okay, cool, that's ISO 100 f11 8 seconds, shot that on 135mm on the R5C, and I can give this a rating. I can add in GPS coordinates, the usual IPTC data, and so forth. But what about the features that make DxO different from Lightroom? Well, the core tools you'll find in Lightroom are basically the same as in Photolab 9, although some of the naming conventions may differ slightly. But the fundamental tools are all present and accounted for. So I'm going to start off with just a simple woodland scene. Then I'm going to head over here to customize, click on that. And there, everything is loaded up now that we need. So I can go ahead and close that up. Bottom, first of all, we've got our tools panel here on the right hand side, and it's very similar to that of Lightroom. If we have a look here, we've got our exposure and we've got highlight priority modes. I think the exposure is okay, maybe make it a touch brighter. DxO's also got this really cool thing called DxO Smart Lighting. And you switch that on and it just poof, immediately just makes your image pop. You can of course set the intensity of it. It's actually really natural. We can go strong, might be a little bit too much. Maybe something like that. I can then go ahead, do my selective tone as well. That looks pretty cool. So doing my highlights, tad on the midtones, and I really want to bring some contrast in. So I'm going to lower my shadows, and I think I'm going to keep the blacks where they are. Let's just have a look and see what that looks like. I mean, that's cool as a moody image. I'm not sure that's the look I'm quite going for just yet. I quite like that though. That's quite nice. Painterly, soft, bit of contrast. Up to the next feature is DxO Clearview Plus. Now, where Adobe Lightroom has their dehaze slider, this works very similar, except that it doesn't do negative dehazing like you would find in Adobe Lightroom. This only corrects it. So as you can see, that's the original. Adding the intensity just dehazes the whole image. Now, it's not bad. Does a pretty good job, but I might only use it a very, very slight amount here, just to bring out the details of this tree. We can then further go and introduce some more contrast. The nice thing about this is the micro contrast and the fine contrast. Now there you can play around with a bit of negative dehaze as well. So I can add a bit of general contrast to the image. I can reduce the micro contrast if I wanted to, and that really makes it, I mean, it blurs it out quite a bit, but it does create an almost like painterly effect to the whole image, which is really nice. Micro contrast, now that just brings it out. All those fine details really, really nicely as well. Or we can go into the negative and add to that painterly feel. Up next, we've got our usual tone curve that you'd find in Photoshop as well, or in Lightroom. And what I normally tend to do with this is just raise up the blacks slightly by about 5, and then bring down the highlights as well to about 250. I'll then add in a little bit more gentle S-curve here. Just touch on the midtones maybe. There we go. We can then move on to our color tab over here. This is where things become quite interesting. You can choose your color space there, which is the either DxO wide gamut or the legacy. I would obviously go with the wide gamut because I want the widest range of colors available in my image. Then we can set the white balance as well as per usual. Now we can have a look here. I mean, might look cool as a bit of a cooler image. Maybe a touch too much. Maybe like that. We can also introduce some color or black and white rendering, so we can choose from either the camera body, and then from the drop down list, look at that, I can actually go and select my R5C. That is pretty awesome. Let's just look at the before and after. So that really just enhances the contrast quite nicely. We've also got this protect saturated colors, which is really nice. So if you got a lot of vivid colors in your image, protect it from oversaturation and blowing out, so you still retain all the beautiful detail in these orange leaves, for example. Well, they're not as overexposed at the moment, so I'm not going to worry too much about the protected saturated colors. I might just leave it at 10 to be on the safe side, but I think it should be okay. You can also use some LUTs if you wanted to. It's certainly got some interesting effects. Pretty cool if you want to use this as a sort of a base to work off of. It's quite a ethereal looking image. I'm going to move on. We can do some split toning. So if you want to do simple tone, we can do that, or we can use split toning. Select our custom color. Let's make the highlights a bit more goldeny brown. We can bring the saturation down a bit so it's not too much. Bring the intensity down if we need to. And then the same with our shadows as well. I'm going to select a custom color there. Maybe not too saturated. Maybe something like that. I do feel like we can make these oranges pop a little bit more. So we can use the HSL perhaps. We can have a look there. So we've got on the orange tab. See if we bring that saturation up. There we go. A little bit of luminance as well. Yeah, that's looking lovely. Right then, yeah, you've got your usual stuff like your channel mixer as well, so we can add or remove some luminance there. I'm not going to be too fussed about the channel mixer now. I don't tend to use it that often. All right, and then we've got this scan film optimization. So if I were to import any scanned film, this is where you'd be raising your blacks or lowering your black and optimizing those scan negatives of yours. Very, very handy feature. And then finally, we've got our soft proofing. Now, obviously soft proofing is used for your printing needs. So I would go and select an ICC profile here to soft proof. If I were to print this image, I would get the ICC profile from my printers loaded up in here, and then make sure that all the colors are displayed correctly and make sure it's ready for print. Noise reduction is a big feature, and where Photolab 9 truly shines. DxO's Deep Prime noise reduction is quite possibly the best noise reduction I've seen any RAW editor offer. It works incredibly well on a RAW level workflow and removes noise while retaining all the details. DxO's Deep Prime noise reduction produces a natural looking, noise-free image by combining demosaicing and denoising in a single step. Now this was shot at 100 ISO, there's not a lot of noise going on here, but it was shot on a 450D. That is pretty damn good, especially if you look at there's a bit of noise over here on the rocks. If I switch that off, just gets rid of it straight away. Or we can add some lens sharpness in there to bring that detail back. Oh, that's just fantastic. Maybe some chromatic aberration just in case. There we go. Another standout feature is DxO's lab-tested camera and lens modules. DxO has long been at the forefront of optics testing, and it really shows in Photolab 9. The software will automatically identify which camera and lens were used for a particular photo and downloads correction profiles based on the hardware used. It will then automatically fix distortion, softness, and chromatic aberration, all tailored to that specific lens and camera use. DxO's approach to optical refinement feels much more scientific and less generic. So here I've got an image we can have a look at. We can test out the lens sharpness optimization, for example. If I were to zoom in on these little water droplets here and test it out. So there we go. That's on and that's off. On and off. On and off. You must feel like you're doing an eye test right now. So you can see it does add considerable amount of sharpness to the image. If I were to zoom out to 100%, hopefully you can see that. But that makes a significant difference. That's really, really good. And it doesn't look artificially sharpened either. It looks pretty natural. You can also use the retouching tool here, which is essentially like a spot healing brush tool that you can use to get rid of any distractions in the image. Here you can also add your crop in, even though you can also do it up here. So you've got those basic tools up here as well. You've got further perspective correction tools. Again, it's also available right up there. Second to last, we have our FX tab. Now here you can go and add in a preset watermark. Furthermore, you've got other little special effects, things like you can add the miniature effect to the image. You can increase the blur, decrease it. You can add filters, especially like from DxO Film Pack, for example. So really, really cool. I can add in some grain. Zoom in for that grain a bit. Oh, that's a bit too much. You can choose film stock here as well. So what kind of grain are you going to get? Very, very cool to add just that finishing touch to your image. All right, and then we can also add a vignette to it. So whether that be a positive vignette or a negative one, it's always handy. You can also blur the edges of your image, kind of like a vignette blur. It's cool, I would imagine, for certain types of effects, either a blur or a soft focus. Masking in Lightroom has always been intuitive and easy to use. You have your standard AI selection masks, such as subject, sky, landscape, etc. Photolab, on the other hand, leans heavily on AI masking, but the difference is that the AI masks are more accurate and refined than those I encountered in Lightroom. The terminology also differs here. You now have control points instead of radial masks, while linear masks are still the same. The masks can all be grouped together in a folder, used together or subtracted from each other. Once you get used to this change, it opens up a whole world of possibilities. When I first start working on an image, I tend to keep it as flat as possible. I don't want to add any contrast. I normally do that locally through masking. So I make sure that everything is as flat as possible, and then I'll go straight into my masking. So here we've got an option between AI masks, your radial masks, which is now control points, control lines, graduated filter. You can add luminosity masks, which is really cool, hue masks, automatic brush, and your standard brush. Let's start off with our standard graduated filter. Here I'm just going to add in a little bit of darkness, just a little bit of shading there, just a little bit of light fall off, really. That's all it is. I'm then going to take my brush tool, and all I'm going to do is just brush in some of these clouds. But yeah, I can just go and drop the flow of that as well if I wanted to. Let's make it 10%. Still a bit too much, but it's fine. It's just so you get the idea. Let's drop that down at 10%. It's the most I can go. Drop the opacity down. All right, you get the idea. So now I can go and drop either the exposure of those or go to my shadows and just bring in a bit of contrast. Make it really nice and moody. We've got my horizon tool. So what I'm going to do here is take these 2 points, pop them on the horizon, make sure that's nice and straight, hit apply, and then I'll go in and crop my photo as well. Let's do a straightforward rule of thirds, close that, and there we go. So when it comes to third-party plugins, Photolab 9 is slightly different from Photoshop and Lightroom. With Lightroom, the round trip to exporting your images to a third-party plugin is rather seamlessly integrated, and the plugin updates your file automatically. However, with Photolab, you'll have to export your file from Photolab and import it into your third-party plugin, whether that be the Hanser, Luminar Neo, or any other third-party plugin you may use. Personally, it doesn't affect me much, but if you're a photographer who does large volumes of work, I can see how this could become a bit of a stumbling block. Luckily, DxO offers its own plugins, such as the Film Pack and Nick Collection, that seamlessly integrate with Photolab 9. And after using Photolab for a day or two, I felt comfortable enough with its interface, the different naming conventions, and new features that make this raw developer a true leader in image correction and refinement. Now, while I'm singing the praises of Photolab 9, there are a few small issues I've found, but there are more to be aware of when switching from Adobe. For instance, DxO Photolab is a RAW editor firstly, and it does that exceptionally well. However, as a landscape photographer specializing in panoramic images, I wish they had a built-in RAW stitching and focus stacking features. It's not a deal breaker, but it does mean that I have to invest in third-party software like PTGui or Helicon Focus, or look for free alternatives such as Hugin as a starting point before importing the file into DxO. Adobe's RAW converter works really well to produce a DNG file after the image is stitched, retaining all the RAW info and allowing direct editing in its RAW converter. I would love to have this feature in Photolab 9, as it speeds up the workflow by using a single piece of software to stitch and edit files. Furthermore, the DNG files produced by Adobe RAW exhibit a strange discoloration and artifact when opened in Photolab 9, meaning that the files I stitched together in Adobe need to be redone using third-party software if I ever wanted to edit them again. With DxO's leading lens correction profiles built in, I would imagine stitching panoramas in Photolab would yield much more accurate results, allowing them to be edited straight in the application after stitching. I really hope this is a feature they'll introduce one day. But all things considered, DxO's Photolab is a standout RAW converter. There are a few adjustments to my workflow, of course, but overall, I'm fine with it. It's not slowing me down, it's rather making me work differently than what I'm used to. And if I'm not spending a subscription fee every month for the rest of my life, I'm all for it. So to answer my own question, yes, I will make the switch. You know what they say, change is as good as a holiday. So if you're keen for a shift or a change in your workflow for the better, Photolab 9 is a good place to start. And if, like me, you're tired of subscription models, need something that can produce scientifically accurate results, then look no further. Try it out for yourself, and if you like it, I've got a 15% discount code in the description below. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So let me know in the comments below what your biggest headaches are when it comes to editing software and workflows, and whether you'll make the switch or not. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.